All right, I know most of you watch on mobile, so I'm just gonna tell you my story. I just got done making the 5-part post-labor economics series, and one of the kind of comments that popped up is like, "Okay, Dave, this is great. I don't want to just sit around and wait for the government to save me. What do I do?" Now, I don't have a universal framework of, how to adapt and, safeguard your career from artificial intelligence. But what I can do is I can tell you what I did and, take it or leave it. Your mileage may vary in terms of how this works, but I can tell you the story of the last 4 or 5 years of my career as I pivoted away from a more conventional job. Speaking of, if you don't know, I was in cloud automation and infrastructure engineering. So I did cloud virtualization, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and that sort of thing. Multi-million-dollar per hour systems and that sort of thing. And then when to kick the story off, I had a friend who was working at OpenAI. As far as I know, he's still there. Haven't talked to him in a few years though. But I had a friend at OpenAI, and we had been chatting about, like back when they were doing like the robot hand experiments and stuff, and then GPT-2 came out. He said, "You need to pay attention to this. This is cool." So I was like, "Okay, cool." I did some experiments with GPT-2. This is back in 2020 is when I really first started playing with it. Did some Jupyter notebooks and that sort of thing. And I said, "Wow, this is really cool. This is clearly the way of the future." And this is after I had played with Universal Sentence Encoder. So Google really started the transformer thing with their autoencoders, and then bolting an autoencoder to a decoder, and so on and so forth. And the rest is history, right? That's what GPT-2 is, GPT-3, and so on and so forth. So GPT-2 comes out, and I was still just playing around. I've still got some blogs out there on Dave Shap. Was it daveshap.github.io or whatever it is? So I've got some old blogs where I was using basically I trained GPT-2 to unscramble words or something like that, or correct punctuation. So I was like, this is a really powerful NLP tool, because before GPT-2, if you wanted to automatically fix all the typos in a sentence and fix capitalization and grammar and syntax and those sorts of things, that would have been a really expensive set of tools, like Grammarly, right? Like that's a whole software engineering team. But all I had to do was I downloaded some Wikipedia articles, which I assumed had good syntax, and then I algorithmically scrambled them. So some I lowercase them, some I caps locked them, some I removed all the punctuation, and in others I randomly swapped word orders, or letter orders, sorry. And so then I had the input set was the scrambled, and then the output set, the target set, was the descrambled. And GPT-2 learned to unscramble sentences. And I said, this is really cool. So fast forward a year, so 2021, GPT-3 comes out, and I'm like paralyzed with fear, right? Because I'm like, oh, this is the next big thing. This is clearly the path to AGI. And I had to apply for beta access 3 times before I got in. And I don't know if someone pulled strings, or if third time's the charm, or maybe they just got around to it. But I got in. I got beta access to the original GPT-3. And the rest is pretty much history. I started working on cognitive architectures. If you go back to my YouTube channel and like sort by oldest, you'll see 2021, I was working on a cognitive architecture called Raven way back when. So there's all that. Now, at that point, you might be saying like, okay, Dave, like, when are you going to talk about the money and the career? And what I'm doing is I'm setting the stage, because I wasn't making any money from any of this yet. So after being on YouTube for about a year or two, particularly once ChatGPT, before ChatGPT came up, I started getting like offers, like people like, "Hey, can you consult for us on GPT-3?" And at first I was telling people no. Like I said, no, I'm a researcher. I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to consult. I'm not a contractor. But eventually, it's like, "Hey, Dave, like people are literally offering you money, so you should take it." And so I started doing consulting through my work, when YouTube was basically my advertising platform, because I was one of the first people online doing prompt engineering and fine-tuning tutorials and that sort of thing. Then ChatGPT comes out and my YouTube channel explodes, because before then I didn't have, even if I had monetized, I was getting like 50 cents per video. So it's like, okay, this is clearly never going to be a revenue stream. So then over time, my YouTube gets bigger. I have a Patreon and that sort of thing. And at that point I was like, okay, well, what's my business model? Am I going to consult forever? And I did that for a while. But it was exhausting. It was like, 2 or 3 client calls a day. And I got to the point where I was backed up literally a month, right? Like, I had a client every day of the week, or multiple clients every day of the week. And it was really exhausting. So then I read a book called The Automatic Customer, because I cast a really wide net, and I was like, okay, what's my new business model? And so I read like Expert Secrets, a few other books, but what I really settled on was Automatic Customer, which basically advocates for building a subscription-based business. Subscription-based businesses are scalable. They're also not entirely passive, but you're not exchanging your time individually one-on-one for income anymore. So it's much more scalable that way. So it's like, I have YouTube memberships, I have Patreon, and that sort of thing. And so this is, what I'll say is like, this is probably core lesson number 1. If you want to like, AI proof your career, is build multiple revenue streams. So I've got, I jotted them down because I don't always remember all of them. So I get income from Twitter, YouTube, Patreon, School, and Substack. And School is SKOOL. So I have multiple communities, fan clubs, Twitter, Substack, and so on and so forth. And so what I'm doing is I'm telling you the story is how each one became a revenue stream. So Patreon was my first revenue stream, because on the YouTube comments, people like saying, hey, Dave, like if you have a Patreon, I'll sign up. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll sign up. And, like I had like 10 people, and I'm like, great, $50 a month. Okay, cool, whatever. It's like that wasn't enough to pay any bills. So Patreon started, and then I was like, well, I don't know anything about this. I don't know what people want. And so I just did all kinds of random stuff. Over time, YouTube monetization got better, particularly after ChatGPT came out, because then my channel went, parabolic. I remember it was like I went from the first year I had less than 1,000 subscribers, and then the second year I had more than 10,000, and then it was like 60,000, 100,000, and now I'm 170. I'm almost to 180. So it's just it's crazy just how fast it was. So that's that was the arc there. And YouTube ads, because I don't ever do any sponsorships, because one, it's a pain in the neck to work with them. It's like whenever a sponsor like dangles some money, they're like, oh, we're going to give you a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, and they want to control everything. They want to control everything, and there's so much negotiation. I'm like, look, guys, you have I could have spent that time doing something actually productive. So I've told all sponsors, like, no, I'm just going to use the built-in ad revenue from YouTube. It's so much easier. So ad revenue, Patreon subscribers, those sorts of things. So Patreon and YouTube were first. Then I had been writing blogs on Medium, but Medium has been going just downhill the last few years. And they made it basically impossible to monetize your own content. And you didn't even have control over whether or not it was publicly visible. So I was like, okay, well, I want my stuff to be visible, so I need a good blogging platform. So I just moved to Substack. And the entire point of my Substack was literally just so that I could work out ideas. It was like a dumping ground for my ideas. And I would repost the links to my YouTube page. And before I knew it, I had like over 2,000 subscribers on Substack. And also people started saying like, so-and-so has pledged $400 for your Substack. And I'm like, what does that mean? And I didn't realize you could monetize Substack. So after a while, I took a look at it, and I was like, because Substack will send you emails like, you have $2,000 a year sitting on the table. I'm like, wow, okay. So I remember it was once I had about $2,000 a year worth of pledges on Substack that I was like, heck with it. Okay, I'll monetize it, right? I'll switch that on. So YouTube, Patreon, and then Substack was my next one. And it was literally just a dumping ground, just all of my honest thoughts, trying to work out ideas, trying to work through, AI safety issues, alignment issues, post-labor economics now, and philosophy. And it's literally just like my mental sandbox, right? So it's like, okay, well, I might as well build up a subscriber list, and if it pays, great. So that was number 3. And then School came along. So I had a few fans reach out saying like, oh, you should do more paid communities, because through Patreon, that's Discord. So Patreon and Discord are the same. But then there's like, okay, well, there's other kinds of paid communities you can do. And there's this platform called School. So I created New Era Pathfinders there, and I'm still trying to figure out what that community is for. But I've lowered the price to all of my communities to $5, just because it's like, it's just open the door as wide as possible, let people come in. And the strength of the communities really comes from the people, not from me. Like, I can be the gatekeeper and kind of the curator. But so school is there, and now I have a second school community for burnout recovery, since that's something that I'm recovering from. And it's like, hey, you know what? One of the hardest things about burnout is having support, people that are going through the same thing, a safe place that you can ask questions and share and that sort of thing. Because burnout is, depending on how bad your burnout is, it is hell to recover from. And it's very confusing and that sort of thing. So I share like all of my research there and that sort of thing. So that's YouTube, Patreon, Substack, and school all became sources of revenue. And then last one was Twitter, because it's like, I got on Twitter because I read a book called Superfans. And because, it's like when you're an influencer, you want to know, like, how do you be an influencer, right? How do you do that? And one of the core lessons from Superfans is go towards the conversation. And I had been holding out on a lot of conversations, kind of basically staying in my own lane. Like, I don't make reaction videos, right? I watch some other AI content creators. A lot of us in the AI space are actually really good friends. We talk to each other, we support each other, that sort of thing. So I watch their stuff, but I don't do reaction videos. I don't do takedown videos or anything like that. I just try and focus on my mission and my purpose. But I realized that I was leaving a lot of attention on the table. And so I was like, well, I've stayed out of Twitter for a long time, so let me just jump into Twitter and see what happens. And once I did that, I saw what a lot of other people were reacting to, because I was like, tunnel vision. And then when I took the blinders off, I was like, wow, this whole thing is super messy, because there's the effective altruism angle, there's the doomerism movement, there's the pro and anti-AI people, and then there's the political angle. And it's like, wow, okay, cool. There's a lot more to talk about here. And so that started working. And then, Elon Musk had taken over Twitter, and it's like, you can do content creator revenue sharing or whatever. You sign up. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll try that. And, the first time I got paid from Twitter was like, $50 over 2 weeks worth of content. I was like, okay, that doesn't really matter. But then, you start building a following and you start making more money. And, one of the paychecks that you get is like $400 for 2 weeks of tweeting, or $700 for 2 weeks of tweeting, that sort of thing. So it's like, wow, that all adds up. If you have 5 revenue streams and they all pay more than $1,000 a month, like, you do the math. So that's the story. So now I want to unpack and leave you with some of the general principles. Because everyone might say, like, Dave, I don't want to be a content creator, or I don't want to be an influencer or whatever. And like I said at the beginning, this is not a path for everyone. But I can tell you what worked for me, and you can learn from it. Take what works and leave the rest. So one of the key principles is focus on the thing that you just have a stupid amount of passion for. When I first got into AI, and specifically GPT-3 was the ramp up. When I first got access to GPT-3, I was literally like ignoring my main job and fine tuning models with GPT-3 as much as possible. I was synthesizing data. I was on the OpenAI developer forums. I was on Reddit still at the time. Reddit. No, Reddit is, it's like that line in The Lion King, like, we don't talk about, like, that's the dark place, you should never go there. There's no money to be made on Reddit, and it's just an emotional drain. So, whenever I have people asking me, like, Dave, how do you make money? I was like, if you're on a platform that doesn't pay you, deprioritize that platform. Like, there's your core platforms, which is the ones that pay you, and everything else is just peripheral funnel, right? Like, I'm monetized on Spotify, but it makes like 50 cents a month. Cause I don't know why it's so difficult to monetize on Spotify, but, maybe it's just because there's not as many people on there. But so I repost to Spotify. I post on Spotify, Substack, everything else. I do repost some stuff on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn doesn't pay you. And so it's like, okay, well, why am I gonna, help LinkedIn if they're not gonna help me back? Right. So that's kind of why LinkedIn is dying, I think. And the new model is, if you want to be on these, if you want to attract people, you got to give them some compensation or a way to make money for their contribution to your platform. Now, but yeah, so focus on something that you really care about. And when I say really care about, I mean, I worked on fine tuning models, like some days up to 16 hours a day. And that was not particularly healthy. There's a reason that I burned out. So I don't recommend doing that. But it's not, it's a weird thing because you do have to gain subscribers and followers, which means you have to produce quality content. You have to meet the market where it is, but also you have to have your own agenda. You say, this is what I am super passionate about, right? And it's a really interesting tension, and all of us creators struggle with this. Sometimes we get stuck focusing on the algorithm, and sometimes we get stuck focusing on, I'm just going to talk about what I want to talk about. And then, you lose subscribers or nobody watches it or whatever. So it is really a matter of striking the balance of placing content and thoughts and those sorts of things. And you might have noticed, so I'm not going to name names, but several of my peers out there, we've all talked to each other and they've talked to me about burnout because I've been very public about it. And so I've given some advice, some feedback, and I'm focus on what you really care about. If you're getting bored or it doesn't mean anything to you, pivot, just do an experiment and pivot. And you know what? It takes time because I've pivoted my channel a few times. When I first started, it was all prompt engineering and fine tuning tutorials. It was coding challenges and that sort of thing. And then I was like, okay, cool. I really want to talk about more conceptual things. And so then I started introducing slide decks, and nobody liked the slide decks at first. Because it's Dave, we're here for tutorials, stay in your lane. And I'm whatever, I want to talk about bigger picture things than just fine tuning tutorials. So, and I haven't made a tutorial in 2 years. And so then, it's then after doing a lot of slide decks, I got bored of that for a while and I started recording more videos like this, or when I was walking out in the woods and that sort of stuff. And sure, some of them didn't get the views that I'd hoped that they would get. But at the same time, you always have to keep experimenting. And taking an even bigger step back, what are we talking about here? You can call it the creator economy. You can call it the attention economy more broadly. I prefer to think of it as the meaning economy, because when you think okay, particularly if you're watching Mr. Beast, right, that's just attention, right? It's just for attention. It's not enriching the viewers at all. It's just entertainment, right? It's the same thing as VH1 and MTV back in the day, right? Viva La Bam. I don't know if anyone grew up watching Viva La Bam and Jackass, right? Mr. Beast is the next generation of that, right? Where it's quasi-reality TV of just people that you want to associate with who are living the life that you would want to live for yourself, right? But that's not what I'm offering at all. What I'm offering is more what I call the meaning economy. So the meaning economy is, here's how to make sense of the world. And something 20 to 25% of my audience, you tell me Dave, I rarely agree with you, but I like the way that you think, right? So it's and I was wow, it's kind of a weird compliment, but okay. And because what I'm really focusing on is, here's how I understand the world. And I'm not always right. I'm frequently wrong, and I'm not afraid of being wrong. And I update my priors, I update my beliefs, I update my mental models as data, evidence, and new experience presents itself. And so, I'd have the philosophical angle. I also engage very tight feedback loops with the audience itself. I don't read all the comments anymore because AI does it for me. So I use a combination of Perplexity, Grok, and now basically all the models. So ChatGPT, Claude, they all have the ability to search the internet. So I'm I frequently ask how is the world reacting to David Shapiro's latest video, right? And it'll aggregate stuff from Medium to Reddit to Twitter, LinkedIn, all of that stuff. And so I get an aggregate view of okay, how are people responding to my ideas so that I can better place the message and that sort of thing. So it's a very, very tight feedback loop where I can understand okay, there's something that I said that didn't quite land right, or maybe I need to clarify the messaging here. Because also one thing that a lot of people don't realize, it's I do hours and hours and hours of research every single day. But then when I make a video, it's 10 to 40 minutes, every couple of days. So I'm trying to compress a whole bunch of thought and work into a 10-minute video. And so, yeah, I can't get everything into every single video. But that's I still kind of sometimes sit and think what is the value that I'm offering the world? But it's you pay attention to the primary KPI and so one of the things that they say in all these books that I've read, whether it's Superfans or Automatic Customer, is subscriber growth. It's one thing to have a free follower, but what you really want to pay attention to is paying subscriber growth. That's your number one KPI. So public subscribers, channel members, Patreon members, Substack subscribers, that sort of thing. Because from an economic perspective, what that is it's what's called a price signal. So price signal basically says someone found your idea or content or whatever, your contribution valuable enough that they want to pay you to keep doing it. And you might say, Dave, how does that even work? And I actually had people, I haven't had people ask this for a while, but I had plenty of people ask at the beginning, like, Dave, like, how do you expect people to pay you if you're just giving away everything for free? I'm still not entirely sure why it works, but then I look at the fact that, like, there's a handful of content creators that I subscribe to, even though all their content is free. And so there's a lot of psychology to it, like you want to be closer to someone and that sort of thing. So like the most famous content creators that I subscribe to are Strick and Fran over on Castaways. Great people. I'm actually their highest tier subscriber, as far as I know, at least when I first signed up. And they're like, wow, no one's ever signed up for this tier before. I was like, I really like what you guys do. And they're also like the nicest people. They're even nicer in person. They're even nicer than you'd expect. Just the best people. And honestly, most of the creators that I've talked to are just like the best people. So like I've got an interview with Dylan and Wes that's about to come out on their channels. Like they're just really great guys. But yeah, so like it's a new community, and I don't know how to wrap it up. I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but like you find something, you just keep working at it, you keep chipping at it, you build multiple revenue streams, you read a few books about that business model, and you just follow the instructions. Like if I had to put it down to the two most important books, it's The Automatic Customer and Superfans. You read if you want to join the meaning economy and the attention economy and the creator economy, or any combination of that, just read those two books. And then the rest is practice, right? If you look at my older videos, they're all freaking garbage, right? I watched a bunch of videos from like vidIQ and interviews with Mr. Beast, and Mr. Beast said the same thing. He's like, just sit down and make videos. Like they're going to be garbage, right? Your first 100 videos are going to be so cringe inducing. You're not even going to be able to watch them in 5 or 10 years, but just keep making videos. And the number one rule of thumb is like, just try and do something 1% better every time. Like, I just got a brand new microphone. I got a Rode NT 1 5th generation, right? So it's like, I'll sound a little bit better. Oh, by the way, your microphone is your most powerful tool. I remember when I was only getting like 200 subscribers or 200 views per video, and I got a better microphone, it went up to like 400 overnight, just because I sounded better. And for some people, it's a conscious thing. Like if someone has made a video and it sounds awful, I will like click off because it like messes with my misophonia. But it's an unconscious thing where it's like, oh wow, I know that video is going to have good sound quality. It's not going to be a struggle to listen to. And I'm going to get the full experience of that human voice. That matters a lot. So there's a million little things to learn. Like it's a job. It's a career. It is a career unto itself, and there's all kinds of stuff to learn. There's the hardware, there's the software, there's the editing. Then of course there's the skill itself of just speaking, right? Like it is so weird to just look at you in a camera, right? Like I'm pretending like there's an audience there, like, and it's just a tiny little camera, right? It's an Insta360 camera, and then I've got the microphone, and so it's just me in my room with everything recording, and away it goes. All right, I think that's enough rambling. You've got 25 minutes of some insight about how I've AI proofed my career by joining the attention economy, the meaning economy, the creator economy. Again, it's not going to work for everyone, but hopefully this will inspire one or two people out there, give you some ideas to kick around. And yeah, like whatever it is, like whatever you care about, like I guess here's where I'll end is, I think it was it Teddy Roosevelt? Someone said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that applies to people, but it applies to like individual relationships, but it absolutely applies to the meaning economy. All right, with that, over and out. Cheers.